that you, Marge?
No, that's you.
I'm good.
All right. Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, friends in person. Welcome, friends online. This is Collective Liberation, a conversation with Salt of the Earth. I'm Jackson Malkus. I work at Friends Place on Capitol Hill. That's where we're hosting this event right now in person. Friends Place is the Friends Committee for National Legislations Quaker Guest House and Civic Education Center. So we host groups here from all over the country who are coming to the Capitol for educational experiences or advocacy or service learning and things of that nature. And Friends Committee of National Legislation is the Quaker lobbying organization that works on issues related to peace, justice, and environmental stewardship, among other things. So tonight we have two people who are very involved in this peace process and particularly working on peace in Israel and Palestine. They're longtime peace activists. They're going to share their stories, their experiences, how they came to be involved in working for peace, their learnings throughout that process, and kind of their vision and their hope for a future of peace, stability, and security in Israel and Palestine. And then as we progress through the conversation, basically when the guys feel the time is right, we'll transition to some question and answer with the audience. If questions are occurring to you and you're online as the guys are speaking, feel free to put those in the chat and we can refer back to them when we get to the Q&A segment of our conversation. All right. Yeah, if you want to support Friends Place so that we can have more opportunities and events like this and continue providing programming in civic advocacy, you can donate at the link we're going to drop in the chat, friendsplacedc.org/donate. If you have tech concerns as we're going throughout, you can drop those in the chat as well, and we'll try to correct. Olivia Delaplane, our wonderful program coordinator here, is going to be managing some tech for us tonight. All right. Well, I think that is enough introduction. And I guess we'll say for friends in the room, if you need to use the restroom, you have one right around the corner over there. There's also, you go up the stairs to the second floor and take a right. There's a bathroom in the kitchen as well. Help yourselves to food and drink. And yeah, let's have an enjoyable evening and learn a little bit from the guys. So I'll turn it over from there.
Thank you. Yeah.
So that's enough with a good English. Now you're gonna use ours, which is a little different. Yeah. So thank you for having us. Really, it gives me always hope to see people around the world really care about what's going on, and it's not my own nightmares by myself alone in the bed, watching people, kids dying, and trying to fight over who's right and who's wrong. I love what you said, and sometimes I'm really triggered by the word peace. You know, because I don't know, I don't have peace in my name here. I said collective liberation because peace comes after liberation and not the other way around. And that's very important for us as Palestinians to understand. Everyone asking us peace, peace, peace. Where's your leaders? Why you don't have peace? Why you don't make peace? When there is no freedom and no justice, there is no peace. You can't make peace under the occupation. You don't end the resistance, then you end the occupation. The other way around. First, you end the occupation to end the resistance. It's just about the word peace. So we are here to tell you our stories, to share with you what's going on our lands now and before, and how we grew up, and what's our narrative about. Our two narratives, actually, how everyone grew with his own narrative and how we met and what's the transformation point for us. But we are here also to say we are not here to tell you who's more holy than the other or who's right or who's wrong. You decide for yourself. We're going to tell you what's going on there, what is the situation for everyone, and what solutions we believe in. And for people who are online, I prefer not to write your questions right when I say anything. Wait until the end, please, and then write the questions, new questions, not what you saved in your mind or in your before 2 days or 3 days preparing to this event. No, just let's give up of our beliefs for 1 hour, 2 hours, and we were gonna take it back with us and try to open and listen to something new, something maybe we don't know what's going on in our homeland more than you. So let's try to listen to each other, and yeah, that's where we are. And thank you again.
So yeah, what we do is we will share our stories, our transformation, not from a place of trying to represent both sides, or as if I am the representative of Israel and Osama is the representative of Palestine, but from a place of inspiring you that transformation is actually possible, and we can be together in these horrific times and fight for each other. And there is an alternative to what they tell us, to the dual narrative of us against them, of right and wrong, of bad and good. And I think what made this possible is the willingness to listen, to be curious to what is the other's experience, to put ourselves in the shoes of the other side, and not to react immediately. So when I listen to his story, I might feel triggered, but I come with the intention to expand, to stretch, to understand what is happening on the other side, why the other side behave the way they behave. So I will share my story, and please, if you have questions later, you feel free to bring yourself. Yeah. بدك انت تبلش؟ Okay, so yeah, I was born and raised in a small village in Israel, and I didn't know Palestinians. As a child, as a teenager, there were no Palestinians around me. And maybe the first time I heard about Palestinians, I was 10 years old. It was the time of the Second Intifada. And I hear every week about suicide attacks. Buses are being exploded. And as a child, I'm terrified. I don't really understand what is happening. How is it possible that human beings are killing themselves in order to kill me, my people? And I remember, because they don't teach us Arabic in the Israeli school system, I couldn't understand the word in Arabic. And many times when I used to take the bus from place to place, if I heard Arabic, I was terrified just from the language, just the sound of the language was scary. And many times I chose to get down off the bus before the destination. And I think growing up in Israel, I started to understand what it means to be an Israeli through the annual ceremonies we hold. So every year we have the Holocaust Memorial Day, and a week later, the National Memorial Day. And we invite the soldiers to participate in these ceremonies. And I remember as a child, I used to see soldiers entering my school with full uniform and long weapons. And they were always welcomed with so much love and respect and appreciation by the teacher. It was like a ritual. Every year, again and again and again, I see soldiers entering and my teacher is hugs them and giving them love and respect. And yeah, I started at some point to realize or to internalize the fact that when I will become 18 years old, I will be a soldier like anyone else. For me, there was no exception to this. All my family were soldiers at some point of their lives. All my teachers in school, all my village. So for me, the army, it was maybe like your college. Once you finish the high school, you go to college. Once I will finish the high school, I will go to the army. This was nature, kind of. Everyone does it. And then as a teenager, my mom started to take me to her own ceremony because her cousin was killed as a soldier. And again, similar scenarios. So at this time we go to the graveyard and my mom is welcomes and gives so much love and respect to the soldiers from the unit of Itamar, her cousin who was killed. And I was always told by my mom and by the family that Itamar was our hero because he was killed while protecting us, so we will be safe in our homeland. And I remember again seeing this ritual every year, again and again. At some point, I had this inner motivation. I want to go and serve in this elite unit like Itamar was killed. I want to be a hero. I want to be loved. I want to be appreciated. I want to be part. I want to be part of this collective. And I realized that going to serve in the army is maybe the most central thing of being an Israeli. You cannot really be an Israeli without serving in the army. So at the age of 17, we traveled to Poland with the high school to see the death camps, to learn about the Holocaust, like most of the Israeli Jews. And I remember it was a very intense experience. Israeli flags everywhere. And the conclusion or the solution for European, that was suggested for European anti-Semitism, was Israel or Jewish nationality. This was the only way to protect us. And I remember that I came back with the idea that we cannot trust anyone. We have to protect ourselves with our hands. And if we'll not go as a collective the next year to serve in the Israeli army, who knows what might happen? Maybe even history might repeat itself. So I came back from Poland, very motivated to go and serve in the army, this time to be the one who is sacrificing for the collective, for the community. And at the age of 18, I was recruited to the same unit as Itamar, the cousin of my mom who was killed. And I remember the reactions from everyone around me, all my family, my friends, my teachers, were so supportive that I felt I'm doing the most moral and important thing I can do in my life. I was so happy, so proud of myself, and I felt loved and supported and appreciated. And I didn't have second thoughts back then. For me, refusal, it didn't even cross my mind. Like, I didn't know that it's possible. I've never heard about someone who chose to refuse. And for me, it was more like you go to serve in this unit or in that unit. These are the options. And I started also to realize that if I will go to serve in the best units, I will be later rewarded by the society, because society in Israel is so militaristic. So if you go to the best places in the army, later on it will be easier for you to find jobs, maybe to even be accepted to university. For instance, I studied medicine. So the first question in the interview to medical school was, where did you serve in the army? And of course, if I will say I refused, it will be a wrong answer. So I was recruited to this unit, and after 2 years of very intense military training, my team was taken to a Palestinian village in the West Bank. And it was actually the first time I go to the West Bank, because my father always used to say, there is occupation in the West Bank, settlers, it's dangerous for us Israeli Jews to be there, because if the Palestinians will know that you're an Israeli, you don't know, someone might hurt you. So don't go there. And then the first time I actually cross the wall and go to this place as a full armed soldier, my team, 15 full armed soldiers, middle of the night, we crossed the village by foot. When we reached the center of the village, the commander asked me and another soldier to take the shock grenades and to throw them into one of the yards. And I remember I didn't think twice. I was so focused on following the order. I took the shock grenade, I threw it. There was a big boom, silence again, everyone probably terrified in the homes. And on the way back to the base, suddenly Nevo, the other soldier, came to me and told me, you know, Rotem, I think we shouldn't do such things. And I remember I wasn't prepared. I didn't expect it coming. I was so much into being the best soldier I can. But then actually, yeah, of course, there was no one there, no immediate danger. So I was there like confused with this idea of what are we doing here actually. And suddenly the commander came, heard us talking about it, and he said, guys, you are soldiers, you do what you are told to do, and this is the end of the conversation. I don't want to hear about it anymore. And yeah, because it was maybe like we made a lot of effort to be accepted to this unit, and we knew that if we will continue speaking about it, we will be kicked out of the unit. So yeah, we didn't speak about it anymore. But somehow maybe this night was the first crack in my perspective or understanding of what is happening. An year later, I was released from the Israeli army after 3 years of mandatory service. Luckily, I didn't have to fight or to shoot anyone, and I wasn't traumatized, but I was very much programmed to be this best soldier who follows orders, who don't ask questions. And it felt, something here felt bad. I felt disconnected. I felt maybe like some kind of a robot. And yeah, like many other Israelis, I decided to take my privileged passport. Compared to the Palestinians, we can travel quite freely around the world. And to get out of the land, I wanted somehow to try to let go of this mindset of a soldier, to deprogram my mind. And I knew that on the land, because society is so militarized, it will be difficult to do this process. On the land, in Israel, we have right wing, maybe we have left wing, I'm not sure. And above them, we have the army. So no one dares to challenge the narrative of the army, right? Because we have the most moral army. You know that? They teach us in school. We have the most moral army. We don't question this. And if you just start to question this, you will feel rejection immediately. So I left for a year, and I was starting to self-reflect about the army service, about things. And I came back after a year to start medical school. And just before entering university, I met a friend who told me that he's going to Germany to meet Palestinians from the West Bank, some kind of dialogue program. And I was very excited because for me, again, I was told from a very young age by my society that you shouldn't go there. This place is dangerous for you, and they might hurt you, these people. But actually, the only time I've been there, 2 years earlier as a soldier, I was the one who was violent, not them. And I was very curious and excited to join, to just meet these people and ask them, hey, what's the point? Why do you keep attacking us? And then in Germany, it was 12 years ago, I met a group of 20 Palestinians. Most of them were born and raised in refugee camps all around the West Bank. But what do you mean refugee camps? I've never heard about refugee camps in the West Bank. So they told me, yeah, we were born here in refugee camps, but originally our grandparents are from where you live, from inside Israel. They used to call it from 48. And during the War of Independence, which is our Nakba, 400 villages were destroyed, and over 2/3 of the Palestinian population were expelled from their homes to refugee camps in Gaza, all around the West Bank, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, and later all over the globe. And many Jewish refugees came and took over the homes that were not destroyed in Haifa and Jaffa and Jerusalem and Karem and other places. And honestly, it was too much. The gap between the narratives, the one I was raised about and the one I just learned about in Germany, was so big that it didn't make sense. How come I had to go to Germany at the age of 23 to learn about the narrative of my neighbors? How is it possible that I've never heard the words Nakba and camps? So I was confused, but at the same time, I connected to these people on a very human level. We sat there in Germany for 10 days, speaking our stories, our fears, our pain, from morning to evening. And I've seen them crying. And many of them even brought the keys to the houses that were taken or were lost. Yeah, so I realized, okay, I'm super ignorant about my neighbors. I don't know anything about their narrative, about their stories. And I decided to start to read about the Nakba. And very early, I've learned that in Israel, there is a law that prohibits schools from teaching or even mentioning this word. And if you're a teacher in the Israeli school system and you will insist to speak about the Nakba, you will lose your job. And we have several cases, examples of brave teachers who lost their jobs. And later, I've learned that in theaters in Israel, you are not allowed to speak about the Nakba, to mention the Nakba on stage, because then the theater will lose all the funds from the government. And many, many other practices that Israel uses to basically erase the Palestinian narrative. And it makes sense, right? Because it's much easier to justify our violence as self-defense when there is no context to the violence of the other side. If Israelis will know that 70% of Gazans are actually refugees from 48, it will be more difficult to dehumanize them. And then in Germany, I started to, after spending time with Palestinians, I started to see nuances and details that I couldn't see before. So for instance, I used to celebrate our independence every year. We have festivals, parties, music, fireworks, barbecue all over the country. And suddenly my new friends are telling me, we live next to you, we see the festival, but for us, we feel as if you are celebrating our catastrophe, our Nakba. And yeah, it was painful to understand how much ignorant and how much clueless I was about my homeland, about the history of this land. So I came back from Germany and I was trying to talk to my family, to my friends about this experience in Germany, about the Palestinian narrative, about my new friends. And unfortunately, most of the people were very intimidated by the topic, became very defensive. Maybe I am also back then didn't have really capacity to hold space for them. And yeah, it felt as if I lost my support system in 1 second. Like once I open a discussion about this topic, no one is there interested to listen. And yeah, I felt lonely, and I later realized that it's not unique, this experience. This is the reaction that every Israeli will meet when he will decide to first educate himself about what is happening and then to speak up for justice. And luckily, I managed to find new support system, Israelis and Palestinians who are peace activists, or how do you say it? Freedom fighters. And who understand that the first step towards a new reality is recognition and acknowledgement about our identities, about the history of this homeland, and about what is still happening. Because the Nakba is never finished. Actually, today is the peak of the Nakba. It has never been so intense as it is today. The number of people who are being killed, the number of people who are losing their homes, becoming refugees, we are in the peak of this process. Later, okay?
Want to like explain for those that don't know what the word Nakba
Okay,
means.
yeah. So Nakba, it means catastrophe in Arabic. Literally, this is the meaning. Yes, so yes, we are in this very intense moment of what is happening on the land, and we are here, I believe, because of that, because we need your support, we need your help, we need to create a new shift, to build coalition and to change the direction of what is happening, because it's getting to a very, very dark place very quickly. And yeah, then I decided to move to the West Bank to live with my Palestinian friends. And of course, all my family and Israeli friends were convinced that I lost my mind. I don't know if you know, so in the West Bank, on the entrances to the Palestinian town, villages, cities, you have red signs that basically warns the Israelis that this place is dangerous for you. The army cannot guarantee your safety if you go in, and it's illegal, and don't do it. And I go intentionally to live with my Palestinian friends because first I trust them, and second I want to show to my people that this whole narrative, this whole fear-mongering is not right. Once I will recognize their reality, their suffering, they will recognize me. And this is what happened in a small scale. So I started to get to know more and more people in this village and to connect and to build trust. And after like 6 months, I could speak Arabic. And then I take the bus from place to place. The bus is full of Palestinians. Only Arabic is being heard on the bus. But I'm not terrified as I was as a child, because I know no one is going to attack me. They're just speaking about, I don't know, falafel, daily stuff. And suddenly I feel part, I feel connected, I feel much more connected or safe from the way I felt all my life in my hometown on the other side of the world. And it was like very transformative to start to feel safe in these spaces or connected in these spaces, and starting to get to know the people and to understand their reality and how it is to live under military occupation, how it feels, what it means actually. Because we Israelis, we don't really know what it means. We hear maybe the word occupation, but we don't know the nuance, the details. Yes, and then after more time in this village, suddenly my perspective changes, and then this wall, the wall that I used to call it the security wall, because this wall is there to protect me from the terrorists who are coming to bomb our buses. And suddenly my Palestinian friends are telling me, you know, they built the wall very close to our homes. This way they could confiscate all our olive trees. So we lost our income, the way our ancestors used to live for hundreds of years. We cannot do it anymore. And then in the weekend, when I want to take my car and go to see the coast, the beach in Tel Aviv, in Jaffa, I can do it because I'm Jewish. I cross the checkpoint. No one will stop me. In 1 hour, I will be in the beach in Jaffa. No one will stop me, but I cannot take my Palestinian friends with me because they are not residents, they are not citizens, they are stateless. So a whole generation of people being born and raised in the West Bank have never seen the beach. They live 1 hour drive from the beach and they have never seen the beach. So I want to take them with me, right? Very natural human thing. So I hide them in my car. I sneak them in the checkpoint again and again and again. And then after like few times they caught us, the army. And they take us to the police station. And in the police station, I think this night is just describes perfectly the situation on the land. So my Palestinian friend is being interrogated the whole night in a very dark and small room. No telephone, no cigarettes, nothing. I haven't seen him until the morning. And I sit outside under the sky. I have my phone. I have cigarettes if I smoke. And if they need me, they call me, few questions in the office, and I go back outside. And this is the system on the land. And this is what we have to change. Because as long as one side is treated as the chosen or as if this system is for him, and one is unseen and not included in the system, we will have resistance. And the way to change the resistance is not by violence, because we just create more and more resistance. We need to change the paradigm of security by military force to a paradigm of security by relationships, by equality and freedom. Thank you.
So thank you, Rotem. I don't know if my story is very important in this country, but I'm gonna share it anyway. Actually, I can share it in 1 minute. You a very short version. Somehow, it's not very complicated to share it because sometimes I'm tired of keep teaching people that I'm a human being, and I deserve rights. It's just tiring. So my story shortly is someone came from Europe, expelled my great-grandmother and took her house, expelled my grandfather and his family in 1967 to Jordan, didn't allow them to come back, terrified the life of my father, arrested me when I was 14, beated my teachers, keep demolishing the houses of my friends and taking the lands of my neighbors and bringing more people from Europe and giving them all the rights and keeping me stateless under military rules without rights. And I need to be silent. Other ways, I have to choose the guilt. Either I'm a terrorist or I'm anti-Semite or any other name. That's the short version, actually. So I was born in East Jerusalem, in a village called Silwan. When I was little kid, my grandmother used to tell me about her mother's stories and her house, her father's house, which was taken by the Jewish people, she said. And it's still there, and it was the biggest house. And her father was al-Mukhtar, yani the sheriff of the village, and they used to have springs and olive festivals when they pick the olives and dance. Horses used to dance in the streets. And I was always imagining this place as paradise and imagine the Jewish people as, something evil, scary that come to destroy all the dreams of my grandmother. Then I started to hear about 1967 war. My whole family were expelled to Jordan. Israel opened the borders, everyone was going, many stories. Stories of my father seeing bodies and heads in the streets, like what we hear today. I did not imagine this is reality. That my father, I used to think he was used to lie to me. Like when he say we walk to Jordan and people, our neighbor, he's the only survivor from his family. They airstrike the truck that was going to Jordan, and he's our neighbor. So yeah, that's how we grew up. I didn't know about Jewish people anything more than the traumas of my family, fears. And then when I was 8 years old, my father was out of Jerusalem for a few years. And in East Jerusalem, there is law for Jerusalemite, and it's, the continuing transfer. There is law in East Jerusalem. You can't renovate your house. You can't build a new house. You can't add to your house. And if you do, they're gonna come and demolish it. And if you choose to move 10 meters away, somewhere else where you can build or buy a house, they could cancel your residency if you don't live in the borders of Jerusalem municipality. And canceling your residency means you are not allowed to enter to Jerusalem or to Israel anymore in your life. So my father lost his papers and we moved to Jericho. Actually, for me, it was the end of the 80s. It wasn't really big different because we used to have house in Jericho before for my grandfather who was the only one who sneaked back from Jordan. Actually, after 67 war, my grandfather refused to stay there and he sneaked back with his 12 children to Jericho and then to Jerusalem. So yeah, I started to go to school in Jericho, and that was my first encounter with the Jewish people face to face, really. Like full armed soldiers standing in front of my school, some of them in a jeep, some of them on the other building. We pass every day. One day they stopped me and they spoke to me in their language, which was, like 3 white people speaking to me in a language that I don't understand, I never heard. And with weapons, I just was terrified, and I went back, tell my mom the story, and she said they are the Jews, Yahud. And I think this is something we need to fix in our culture as Palestinians, and to start to name, to not to follow the Israeli government propaganda and to call all the occupiers Jews. To know the difference between Judaism and Zionism. This is very important, and not judge people for their faiths, because this is racism. So yeah, that's my life. Every day I go to school, soldiers are there. Any student throw stone or any object at their direction, they target the school by tear gas. Imagine every other day we are kids carrying our bags, running from the backyard, tear gas, carrying onions in our hand because they told us onions can help against the tear gas. I was always running with tears, but I wasn't sure it's from the tear gas or it's from the onions or it's from the fears. Yeah, and when I arrive home, usually my mom used to hide me or take off my clothes uniform. After 3 months, we heard that the army commander decided to close all the schools in Jericho. Why? Because they can, because we Palestinians live under the army control. We are not citizens, we are not residents. We live under military rules. So the army are policing us, actually. It was nice not to go to school every day in the morning. I hate to wake up early. But things never changed. Like in the evenings, during the days, mostly after midnight, soldiers used to walk in the streets. We call them musha, like they walk, I don't know, Marines maybe. They walk 6 soldiers from this side, 6 soldiers from this side. We used to be on the roof and see them coming from far and go down to hide. And then Palestinian youth throw stones or empty glasses at them from the fields. Then they start to run and shoot. Tear gas, bullets, all this from my bed. I used to hug my sister sitting there and hug the onions too, because tear gas is everywhere. And we were not allowed to leave our bed and turn the light on, because if soldiers seen the light turned on, they could enter to the house. Many times they came to knock at our door. We were terrified. But my father didn't open, and it works many times. Once they took him out, and I saw in the middle of the night, it was dark, soldiers in the middle of our house, taking my father violently, and he was beaten. I saw this after he came back, blue marks on his body. And yeah, I felt like all the fears toward the Jewish people shifted to hate and anger, because somehow they attacked the security of my life. The strongest person in my life is being beaten and attacked and abused by the soldiers, or these people who represent Judaism to me. When my father came back, I started to think about how hate and revenge. But I don't have army, I don't have soldiers, I don't have units to go to. With my friends, we decided to do our daily game. Our daily game was throw stones at each other when there is no soldiers, because you can't put me in this environment and expect from me to play basketball. Yeah, it's not Switzerland. So we started to collect money and buy spray color, and after midnight we jumped out of the house because we were terrified of our parents. A lot of people will say their parents gonna send them. I was afraid of my parents more than the soldiers sometimes. Yeah, so jumped out of the house and I wrote outside Free Palestine. It was red and I was terrified. We hid this spray color like very deep, and then I went to sleep. I was really scared that they're gonna come and take me. And I woke up in the morning and I felt safe. Nothing happened. They didn't come yet. And I felt so proud of writing this Visit Palestine, even though actually by then I wasn't aware about Palestine situation. I wasn't fighting for Palestine. It wasn't my intention to liberate the land now when I'm 14 years old, or even less. It was against this full-armed soldier who's traumatizing the life of my teachers, my parents, my neighbors, everyone. I lived in curfews, house demolitions, people get shot, my friends from the school, every other day someone is getting arrested or died. Yeah, and then we decided to do something bigger by raising a Palestinian flag, because it used to trigger them a lot, and all what we want is to trigger them. But it wasn't legal, so we started to collect shirts and try to cut it and sew it. And because we haven't seen Palestinian flag before, we were not sure if we should put the black on the top or on the bottom. Yeah, so we made it, and it was really good and big enough. And I climbed one of the trees and I raised the flag there. And it was so liberating to feel the flag over there, not because it's Palestinian flag, because it's something represent my narrative, represent my existence. A lot of people complained it's upside down, you should have put the flag different way, but for me it was really good to give me this feeling. 3 months after, 3 weeks after, the army came to our houses after midnight. I was sleeping. They took us handcuffed, blindfold to the unknown. I thought, that's it. I'm done. It's the end of my life. And we get arrested, 3 of us, under a law called administrative detention. What is administrative detention? Administrative detention is a law, a military law that works on me, on the Palestinian, but it doesn't work on the settler who lives next to me, illegally according to the international law and the Israeli law. It's different laws. Don't dare to call it apartheid. It's different laws. This guy has all the rights, full citizenship, even though he's illegal according to the international law and the Israeli law, some of them. And I have no rights at all. So the army commander can decide to kidnap any Palestinian, to come to their home and take them out of their home, keep them in jail from 1 day up to 3 years without a trial. It's just suspicious that they call it, Lani. You didn't do anything, but maybe you're gonna think to do something in the future. So we're gonna keep you 3 years, traumatize you to be ready to do. Actually, that's how the system works. So in Israeli jails, I think I lost my childhood. I forgot the meaning of being a child, and I became this tough, angry, grumpy, traumatized, violent person who hated everything about Judaism and about the Jewish people, because that's the only thing I knew about them. And I went out with a lot of education now about my Palestine, about my narrative only, about 48, about how many massacres they committed, how many people they killed, how many people they raped, how many people they buried alive, how many villages they destroyed. All the narrative to be Palestinian, you learn in Israeli jails. That's how you make enemies. And I went out with a lot of anger, and I started to be violent with everything. It's not only Israel, Palestine, even with my sisters, with my animals, with my cats, with the trees, with my parents. And I started to throw stones and to know how to do Molotov cocktails, and I wanted to fight in every way possible. But suddenly we heard that there is a peace agreement going to happen soon. It's called Oslo. And Palestinians will take 22% of their homeland back to live in peace. For me, I wasn't really sure what is 22% and these things. I wasn't really educated about this. But my dream was to be able to hang out in my city after the sunset without seeing soldiers in the streets. To be able to move from Jericho to Ramallah after midnight and not be terrified they're going to be shot or killed. To be able to go to theaters, to play basketball, to live normal life. I did not care about the political achievements of the politicians who are sitting in hotels giving me lectures. I wanted to feel safe as a child, and I wanted my kids in the future not to be traumatized the same way. So I did not care about 22% or 50% or 30%. And I saw a lot of Palestinian flags everywhere, and suddenly it's legal. I was inspired, and I joined the Palestinian police to protect the peace agreement for a few years. After 4 years, 2 of my police friends were killed, they said by mistake, by the Israeli army. And I started to see like this peace is not really functioning the way they told us it's gonna work. They told us by 2000 it's gonna be all ours, include East Jerusalem, like our land, and we're gonna live in peace with our neighbors. But I felt like since we signed for peace, they are confiscating lands in our piece by piece. And every day they built new settlement, and the number of the settlers is raising up from 100,000 to 650,000, like in a few years. How you convince me you're gonna give me this room while you're still working every day in it, building your own stuff? I left the police and I was looking for different ways to resist. 2001, I was in internet cafe. After maybe midnight, special units came in. They were wearing like a Palestinian woman. They started to shoot everywhere. 2 people were killed. Another one was wounded. And like everything was dark, and I saw their lights and their weapons. I laid down and I started to look at people. For the first time, someone is breathing and he's dying in front of me, and I couldn't give hand. Then they took us, all of us, the bodies, they left the bodies, took the bodies, they left the blood and everything. And they took us to an army base next to Jericho called Machane Nipo, where we were handcuffed, blindfolded for 3 days, abused. I couldn't move my hand, my fingers because of the hand. They put plastic handcuffs, and you have to deal with it. After 3 days, I couldn't move my hands. They released us, and I was walking back home for the first time as a brave, strong boy. crying. I couldn't move. It was all blue. And I felt I am target no matter what. We all are target. If we are sitting to search and doing education in internet, or if we are shooting, or if we are just shouting, they don't want us. And the only way to stay on the land is to fight back. I joined the resistance again, and this time it was the most violent and the biggest traumas, maybe, let's say, where most of my friends were killed. My friends were killed. I lost the feeling, like I couldn't feel. I was waiting to die, to be honest, but I didn't want to die and be easy target. I want to hurt them first. But death was the closest freedom you can reach in this situation. Yeah, so in 2007, the Palestinian Authority decided to stop us. They said they're going to have another negotiations with the Israelis and the Americans, and all the resistance should stop. We didn't accept it at the beginning, but they forced us to accept it, and we did. And yeah, and I went back to college trying to figure out what to do in my life. In 2010, I ended up in Bethlehem. It was snowing and I wanted to go back home. No public transportation after sunset, for sure. And one of my friends was going to Bethlehem from Jericho. Actually, I saw him and I jumped on him to take me right back. And he said, I'm going to Jericho, but first I have warm dinner and I'm going to meet peace activists. And I said, wow, amazing. I would love to see how peace activists look like. I never seen them, you know. So I went with this friend and I was so excited to enter to the peace activists. When I entered the room, I saw, the first thing I saw, a Jewish guy sitting there with yarmulke on his head. And I stood back immediately and I said, Ahmad, this is not our room. He looked and said, it is. I said, there are Jews, man. He said, yeah, Jews, peace activists. I was very mad at him. What you mean, man? What you mean? Jews and peace activists. Jews killed their own prime minister because he wants peace. Not me, because he signed peace agreement. You think they're gonna talk to us, you silly? And you know, and because I'm the only narrative and I'm the only right one and no one can challenge my beliefs, you know, like everyone, I went out mad at my friend, and suddenly I heard a Jewish woman speaking, saying, I am Israeli, I served in the army. I believe we have the right to live, to exist after what happened to us in the history. But I don't think we have the right to kick people out of their homes, to ethnic cleanse other people, to kill and massacre them, to keep them under military rules with no rights, using our guilt. We were discriminated for our faith most of our life. How we can discriminate other people according to their faith? This is not my Judaism. Even if you want to be Zionist, this is not my Zionism. And I was, if we agree with her or not, I was, wow, how come there is a good Jew who really feel my narrative, talks about my pain, and they don't have all their stories of, we came to live in peace, but you didn't accept us, so we had to kill you and expel you. And some people will say it was a land without people to people without land. And you know, a lot of stories, but no one really recognized my narrative before. And I went back with this crack in my beliefs. How come there are Jews who believe in what I have to say, or my story? After a few months, I went back again to search for the second good Jew, maybe. And I went back to another peace agreement another peace conference. And I met there a bunch of Israeli soldiers who refused to serve in the Israeli army, refused to serve in the air forces, They refused to airstrike in Gaza. And these people told me this is not in our name. And we are willing to fight with you to reach your liberation because our liberation is bound up with yours. And I was surprised. How come these people exist? And why Israel always showed me how strong they are, how much weapons they have, how dark are their jails, they educated me to hate the Jewish people most of my life. They never created a place to meet them as a human beings. Yeah, and I was a little curious to know if there is something else I don't know. And I really started to meet these friends, and I started to bring them to my West Bank, to my cities, to my towns, to show them what's life under occupation, to show them that I live in the oldest city in the world, which was surrounded by 5 water springs, and that's why it's the oldest city, and I don't have water to drink. You know why? Because the chosen one needs a lot of water for his fields, and my kid shouldn't drink, and I should be silent, and other ways I will be violent and I will be terrorist. And this guy has more rights. He can fly from the airport, he can do everything, he has army, he has country, he has freedom of movement, even if my Hebrew is better than his, you know. Not also, how come this is not fair? This is discrimination, this is apartheid. This system should change. It will never make anyone safe as long as people live under occupation. You need to understand, when you refuse or when you don't recognize my existence, you need to expect my resistance. That's how people live. We are not the first nation who's fighting for their freedom. Our case is not complicated. It's just we want to make it complicated. We are people asking for justice, for freedom, for human rights, for equal rights, for our rights to live in our homeland, free like everyone. And not all the Russian Jews have rights on my land more than me. This shouldn't work, and this is not the way. Yeah. So yeah, since then I'm trying to do my best to fight with Israelis, because I believe fighting together is the way. Fighting each other is just feeding this circle of the discrimination and separation system, and it feeds their beliefs. And the best way to do this is by bringing people together to meet and to see each other as a human being, because you can't dehumanize people and justify their death if you know who they are. But if they are behind walls, it's easier. So I created a group called Visit Palestine again, and I started to bring people together to meet and to talk, Israelis and Palestinians. And I was always inspired by a Palestinian poet. His name is Mahmoud Darwish. He was like the revolution poet. Before he was expelled in the 70s from Deir al-Assad, he was in love with a Jewish woman. Her name is Tamar. And when he was in Lebanon, in Beirut, she wrote him a letter asking when we are going to meet. He said after a year and the war. She asked, when will the war end? He said, the time we meet. Thank you.
Yeah, so let's take maybe 1 minute to reflect and relax and breathe, and we can start questions maybe in 1 or 2 minutes, and feel free to ask whatever you comes up, and we will do our best to answer.
This is water. Yeah, so please, if you feel ready, also the people here, you talk to them. I just, for the people on Zoom, I'm sure they will not write monologues. So the questions, please, will be clear. And here we would love, because we have just 1 hour, we would love to ask the question as a question. I know we all have emotions and stories and things to say, but we'll try to do the questions so we can answer things, and we will be here after to do the monologues together. Thank you.
And if people have questions in the room, we'll bring the mic over to you so that people online can hear as well. People who are joining online, if you want to raise your hand to ask a question, I can ask Olivia to keep an eye on the participants and identify if someone is raising their hand, and we can call on you to unmute and ask your question. And I think I saw there was a question in the chat. Yeah. So there's a question from Kat. Says, thank you both for being so vulnerable and sharing your pain and experiences. How do you feel we can continue to spread the truth of history when social media censors us?
Thanks for the question. So yeah, I think social media is not perfect, but it's much better than what we used to have. I think we can still spread what we believe in, right? They try to censor it, but we still have relatively power and agency. I think what we should concentrate now is about creating maybe independent media sources, so not to cooperate or even follow the media of the governments. I think this is the way they control the narrative for years, and now social media actually challenges them. Of course, there is still some kind of censorship and control over social media, but it's much better than what we used to have, and I think we should keep pushing on social media. I see a shift that is actually the direct effect of social media. And yeah, we have a long way to go. We have a lot of work to do. We need everyone. We need to build an alternative power to the governments. And we need each and one of you, and we need to be resilient. It's not going to be resolved soon. We have a long way to go, and we need each other, and we need to make it sustainable. We need to find ways to also nourish ourselves and to build community around this movement, and to see how we build an alternative structures to the ones that are actually oppressing us and controlling us. And yeah, sometimes like when you are doing the work separately in front of the screen and then you are being censored, you lose hope. But when you have a group of people who support you and you are not alone, then you can continue to move forward, because you know that you are not alone. And I think we should be together in this, and to find ways to fight for each other.
Question in the room?
First of all, thank you so much for coming here and for sharing your stories. I imagine it's really, really hard to keep going all the time, so we really appreciate your presence. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about how the two of you met, and also what you hope to get out of, your tour in the U.S., and especially, speaking to the American audience. Like, what do you think our role and responsibilities are?
Yeah. So Rotem and I met 7 years ago. We used to be working or volunteering in peace organizations, and we used to give talks to Israelis and Palestinians. Once we had talk in the north in Israel, and because I am stateless and I don't have the same rights, I'm allowed to drive my car if they allow me, and if the checkpoint is open, I'm allowed to drive my car in 10% of my country only. And Rotem can drive his car in 95% legally, and the other 5% he's doing it illegally. It's 100% of the country. So Rotem came to pick me, and we met somewhere, and he drove us all the way to the north, and we talked to the students there. And the way back, the car stopped, and I had to push him, and I felt like, oh, that's why you invited the Arab. So we start with this black humor, and then he hosted me in his small room in Tel Aviv by then until I find bus to go back. And then we start to meet again and again. And Rotem was really one of the people who wanted to understand what's going on. A lot of Israelis, they are peace activists for ages, but they never slept in one Palestinian village for 2 nights to be with Palestinians. So I appreciated this about Rotem because also it was my way. I moved illegally without permits to the other side to learn a little bit. And that's how you fight. You don't wait their permission to free yourself. And yeah, since then we are meeting in many circles, some healing circles, some many other transferring trauma circles, and we decided 16th of October. We didn't decide, we supposed to travel together by one of the peace organizations called Combatants to Germany for 2 weeks. In Germany, we felt Germans need a lot of education. They still don't know what is Judaism and what is Zionism and what is anti-Semitism, actually. And they want me to carry the guilt of their grandfather. Yeah. And I was in Germany touring around with Rotem, and I felt like I need to free Palestine from the German guilt too. Yeah, and after we decided to move to come to the States, because these countries actually are the big countries in the world who lecture us all the time when they come here about human rights and animals' rights and dogs' rights and women's rights and gays' rights and all the rights in the world, but not the Palestinian 5-month-old children rights. It doesn't exist. When they are shredded and buried under tons of beton, and we still confused if their death should be called genocide or something else. And that's what we care about, not the morals they are trying to teach to the world. Yeah. And I just came here to tell the Americans that your bombs and your explosions will not break us and will not save anyone. No one is safe as long as we are not free. That's what you need to understand. Peace for us is freedom. Don't talk to me about peace. Peace for us is freedom. It's not quiet. It's not calm situation. And we are resilient. We had been fighting since ages, since ever, and we are willing to fight for our freedom, not against Jews, against Muslims, against Christians, against God. If God controlled our life. And we are here to tell you that we are here carrying a branch of olive oil and asking the big countries to support our freedom and our peace. If you care about the Jewish people, if you care about Palestinian people, there is the way. We don't need bombs. You Americans, what you do? I don't know what you should do, but at least you should learn and know that your taxes are killing children around the world, and you are responsible. They educated us how many people died during the Holocaust, how many Jewish people died during the Holocaust, but they never educated us how many people were silent during the Holocaust, and that's why the Holocaust was possible to happen. And I'm here to remind you that your silent is violent. You know what you can do. Yeah. Someone told me 50% of the Americans are against transferring weapons to Israel. And I said, really? I don't believe. If 30% of the Americans will go strike tomorrow and not go to work for 1 week, they will change the system. How 50% are not? You can't change situation by sitting on your comfortable sofa, afraid of the risks, losing your job, losing your money, losing your support, and I'm here to remind you, people are losing their lives, their future, their past, their families, their friends, their hands, their legs, their hospitals, their schools, their universities. And no matter how much we lose, it's a small in front of or against what they are giving. You can't sit on your comfortable sofa and make change. You need to take risks. You need to be the salmon fish and swim against the stream. That's what I can tell you.
Leon in the chat has asked, what is the processes that are available to allow ordinary Israelis and Palestinians to meet and talk to build some type of mutual knowledge? As your story showed, one of the issues is simply the lack of dialogue.
Yeah, so maybe the biggest part of the problem is the segregation. The fact that people are segregated, people live in different realities, they don't know each other. And once you don't know each other, you can believe to any story you are told, any dehumanization about the other side if you don't have anyone to relate to. And also inside Israel, still society is very, very much segregated. Still Israeli Jews go to separated schools, learn only Hebrew, again, except a few mixed bilingual schools and bilingual schools. And this is the problem. When people don't know each other, they can go and fight the enemy or as if there was an enemy. Now, the system doesn't want us to know each other. You have, for example, 5 to 10 bilingual schools in Israel. In these schools, people speak both languages. People have friends from both nationalities from a very young age. And you can see the result is that most of these children will not go and serve in the army because for them, they will not go and oppress and fight the families of their friends. And they know, they learn about the narrative of the other side, about the Nakba, about the Holocaust, and they just don't want to be part of this. And then the government understand that bilingual schools bring or make less soldiers. So they give less funds to these schools because again, the state is interested in soldiers. This is right militarism. This is how it works. And we need to change the paradigm. We need to create bilingual schools. We need to bring people together. We need to create spaces where people can meet and get to know each other. This is very much needed right now. This is for the long term, of course. The short term, we need to stop the violence. We need to stop the killing as fast as possible because the amount of trauma is horrific, and we cannot really understand what is coming. Like once it will stop, we have maybe hundreds of years until we can start reach where we've been just a year ago. So now we have to work on two things: on very immediate one, to put as much pressure as possible on the system to stop the violence, and on the long term one, we need to challenge to change this segregation, this oppression, this apartheid, or this system that creates these enemies. We need to change it. We need to bring people together.
I want to say that about the question, of course, the system is not interested for Palestinians and Israelis to meet. Yeah, we need to go back in history. Zionism started by bringing Jewish people to the land, not to be part of the land. From the day one, they built their own cities, they built their own village, they speak their own language. You know, when someone come to other people's land to be part or even whatever, they integrate, they learn the language of the land. They are living in the Middle East. Even the Arab Jews who came after the Zionists forced them to delete their Arab identity. They don't speak Arabic anymore in order to be accepted. Yeah, we need to understand that this country was founded on Jewish supremacy only. And they don't care about Arabs. They don't care about their existence. And the system, after 80 years, how many cities for Israelis and Palestinians that Israel built? Like joint cities? 0. How many Jewish cities they built? 700. How many Arab cities they built? 0. Since 48 until today, Arabs are living in their old towns, which was exist long time ago, and they are not allowed to live outside. They can live outside, but mostly they will not. Like all the kibbutzim around them, all the Jewish people inside Israel with full citizenship. I visit my Israeli friends. The village next to them, they don't know anyone. They don't talk. They don't go to same schools. And that's how system works. The settler who lives next to me don't speak my language. They live inside walls. So of course they are not interested in us to meet. And maybe what we need to do is to force this. I'm not here to tell you we have to force Israel to destroy Israel, to whatever. No, I'm here to say, can we force your beliefs, not mine? You are the ones who gave us the international law, told us, this is international law, this is United Nations after Second World War. Never again. We need to listen to these rules and these things. It's your beliefs. At least if you can't change it, at least admit that these beliefs doesn't exist. These countries are selling us hypocrisies. There's no democracies, there is no human rights, and I can show you many videos how they change their words in 1 second. So how we can change the situation? I don't think even building. Maybe we force the governments to include everyone. If there is a big power, like if America can force Israel to build the schools between Gaza and Israel for students to come from both sides instead of walls, that can make change. They know this is the way, but they are not interested in it. At least stop sending us weapons. At least if you can't support our peace, don't keep supporting our war and give us weapons. And I have no idea how to bring people together, really, because now it's very difficult. And you can't heal trauma while people are passing through it every day. My son, I taught him since he was little that Jews are not the enemies. I told him what is Zionism and what is Judaism, and he's a peace activist. And then he was coming back from his university. Soldiers took him out, handcuffed, blindfold, beated him for 4 hours. Yeah, I don't know how to change this, but I'm the one who can say, if you can, just force justice. How? I don't know.
Have a question in the room? Yeah, do you have one in the room?
Yes.
First? Yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate you guys again. Thanks for coming back to DC. So I know you just said you have no idea how to bring people together. Right now, we're facing some tough choices in the United States. And I am wondering, what is your viewpoint on like incrementalism? Like, is there a path forward with electoral politics? Is that something like, is there anything we can do? You mentioned the general strike, right? There are so many different ideas about how to move forward effectively. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes. I would love to the people here in the States, for the people who are pro-Palestine and the people who are pro-Israel, don't add separation to our separation, please. Yeah. We are separated enough. You don't have our trauma. You don't have walls. You don't have settlers attacking you every day. You don't have administrative detention. You can go to the same schools. You can meet in the same coffee shops. I'm asking you is fight together, don't fight each other, because this is not saving anyone. Meet, connect to each other before you correct each other. And make space to everyone pain, even if it doesn't make sense to you, because it's real. And don't refuse people by giving them labels. This is normalizer, and this is Zionist, and this is I don't know what. Listen to them and let them listen to you. If Rotem came to see what's going on with the Palestinians, and I said to him, no, I will not talk to you because this is normalization, he will never see the way different way. And again, listen to other people pain, work together to change it. Imagine my dream is to see now two demonstrations, one pro-Israel and one pro-Palestine. Pro-Israel one carrying the pictures of all the Palestinian hostages, and pro-Palestine one is carrying the pictures of all the Israeli hostages. And I think that's how we make change, by supporting each other, by fighting together. Not because this is the right thing to do, but because this is the smart thing to do. And people who are dying every day, they don't have enough time for your political conflicts and your egos between each other. If you ask any single child in Gaza what you want right now, you want to liberate Palestine or you want a piece of bread, he will say, I want the war to end. I want my father and my mother to come back. Talk to people's needs. Stop judging us from your privileged, comfortable sofas and telling us what's right and what's wrong, and work here to connect to each other, because that's the way you can help us.
So we have a question here from Skip asking, what are your views about using a peace and reconciliation process like South Africa?
Yes, I think we need external help, like in South Africa. I think the solution will not come from Israelis and Palestinians right now. People are too traumatized, and we need help first, like to put pressure on this government, because this government is not interested in end of this war. They are seeing it as an historical opportunity to finish the job, to ethnic cleanse the land from Palestinians. So we need the international community to basically stop what is going on. It will not stop otherwise. Don't wait for Bibi Netanyahu to just wake up one day and say, this is enough, because for them, there is no enough, just so we are on the same page. And yeah, we need transitional justice. we need to find ways to move forward, to build new structures, alternative structures where people can, feel that there is justice, and that they are included, and that the system works for all of us, because this is the only way to create peace. As long as some are not included, we'll not have peace. And I don't know the details exactly how it was done in South Africa, but of course we can learn from it.
I just wanted to add about, we always take the final result of the South Africa wasn't throwing flowers to reach their freedom. Yeah. Nelson Mandela was a terrorist according to the American law until 1997 because he was fighting for his freedom. He's responsible of the armed group in South Africa. He's created the armed group. And then when the state suddenly decided he's a peace activist, he became a peace Nobel star. But he's a freedom fighter. And he did not stop fighting until he reaches freedom. Don't talk about peace because before you talk about freedom and justice for everyone. That's my problem. I'm triggered. Peace, 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 peace. There is no peace while there is no freedom. There is no peace where there is no justice. There is no peace when there is no equality. Before you say the word peace, please fight for these three things and then fight for peace, because this is not peace. There is different needs for peace. Israelis, for them, peace is quiet. The Palestinians don't resist. For example, from 1967 until 1988, a lot of Israelis will come to say to you, it was peace. We used to come to the Palestinian cities and hang out and eat hummus in Jericho and Ramallah. I don't know why you started revolution in 88. But I want to remind you that in this peace, Israel built all the settlements on our lands in West Bank. They confiscated most of our lands. They created their own existence in West Bank during the peace. So it wasn't peace, just people were afraid to talk, to speak. Yeah. When there is no justice, there is no peace.
We have another question in the room.
I don't have a question. I do have a comment. You two are really cool. As far as what we can do, if you'll indulge me, there's going to be a historic vote to block weapon sales to Israel in November. This, to me, is the top priority of the peace movement right now. We have to get as big of a vote to block these, offensive weapons, the 120 millimeter rounds that are blowing up whole neighborhoods in Gaza, and also the JDAMs that they're using to do these airstrikes. And that's, I think, a really important piece of leverage to support the work that they're doing. And thank you again. We have a handout that Olivia is going to post in the Zoom room, and we'll pass something out here too.
Echoing everyone's thanks for joining us here tonight and continuing to share. My question is mostly for Rotem about what is, I'm sure now it's much harder than ever in a lot of ways, but what is the work that you and your friends are doing within Israeli society to try and get people to break through some of the propaganda and to be even willing to take some of the steps that you took, especially after October 7th. I know from my experience in the American Jewish community, and I have a lot of Israeli friends and family, it seems, like another wall just came up after that.
Thanks for the question. So October 7th was another reviving the trauma, the existential trauma, existential fear for Israelis. I think many, you can see if you look at people all around Israeli society, you see people who used to be even active, to be part of the peace movement, and suddenly they go and serve in Gaza. So it was a very shocking and And yeah, people were traumatized again. People didn't feel safe. But the reason for me why it was so significant is because the segregation. Who are the people who were not shocked by the 7th of October? People who have relationships. Once you have relationships, once you care, once you trust, you cannot go back to distrust. The problem is that most of Israeli society, even the peace activists, are still living in bubbles and we are still segregated. So this is the solution. If we really want a lasting peace, we need to build relationships. And 7th of October for me is just a horrific reminder that, again, first, we cannot guarantee our safety by living in security cages. It will never guarantee safety to anyone. And segregation is the biggest core issue here. We cannot live separated from the Palestinians, and I don't believe in separation as any sort of solution. I think it might be like one stage, but the long-term solution, it cannot be separation and segregation. And yeah, now it's difficult. It's difficult to talk to everyone because people are traumatized. People feel that they are fighting for their lives. Israelis now believe that if they will not fight, they will not exist. And it's difficult to talk to people when they are in such a state. And yeah, I think now we try, of course, but now what is needed is to stop the violence. This will help us a lot because once the violence is stopped, then we can start to hold more spaces, to speak to each other. As long as there is violence, as long as people don't feel safe, they don't have the capacity. We did when we went on the land between March and June, we did similar meetings with pre-military groups, so mechinot they are called, and yeah, first, most of the mechinot are not interested right now to meet alternative voices like us, and yeah, those who met us, actually it was meaningful, but still most of the people, most of the society is not there, doesn't have the capacity right now.
I just want to say that, of course, I understand the trauma of the Israelis after 7th October, which was, it's not just jumped from the Holocaust there. This trauma, they are working on this trauma every single day. Every Israeli school has to go to concentration camps to see what happened to the Jewish people and to tell them again, everyone wants to kill you. That's why it was very tough for them. But I would love them to understand what's going on in West Bank and Gaza and to read a little bit history, not his story, history. It's different to read history from really big writers and like Ilan Pape or other writers. They can choose whoever they want, but to read history from independent sources and not from the Israeli thing, and to understand that there is concept for the violence, as Rotem said at the beginning. Yeah, in Gaza, Rotem said people were expelled from the land 48 years, but you know when most of the Gazan refugees were expelled from their homes? Not in 1948. In 1950, after 2 years of the end of the independent war, yeah, Israel decided to ethnic cleanse Palestinians from Asdod and from Mashdal and from Brer and many other places and send them to Gaza and take their homes after the end of the war. And if you take the houses of other people and kick them out and put them in refugee camps, you can't just be the victim and say, but they are violent and we have to fight them back. That's what I don't understand in the Israeli, like, I killed their grandparents, I took their lands, I'm sieging them, I'm keeping them, my settlers are burning their trees every day. We stop their kids, we keep them in jail for no reason, but they are a little violent. Yeah, what do you expect from us to do? To throw flowers? We are traumatized too. You passing your trauma to us without knowing this, and we have other traumas. Yeah, just to be aware of what's going on and to get out of this victimhood box. Because if I stay there, I won't be here and I won't talk about anyone's rights in my land. As long as you see yourself victim, you can't change your mindset.
We have a couple questions in the chat from Ellie. We have Osama. Can you tell us again the name of the peace activist group you started meeting with that includes both Palestinian and Jewish communities? And thank you for the work you're doing.
Yeah, it was in 2010. I went to Bethlehem and it was a group called, doesn't exist anymore. It's called Wounded Crossing Borders. Actually, it wasn't for me, but it was the first step. And that's why a lot of people ask me about peace organizations. I said it's amazing to meet, to see each other, to recognize the humanity of each other. And it's a first step to move forward to fight in the bigger stages. A lot of people are stuck there. You know, they start by picking olives and they end their life picking olives, and it will not change anything. Yeah, so I met in this organization, One Day Crossing Borders, and then I started to work with another organization called Israel Palestine Center for Research and Information. And I founded a group called Visit Palestine, as I said. And the last organization I was volunteering in and working in, I became board member called Combatants for Peace.
So Mary is asking, how much do Israeli Jews today know about what the Israeli military is doing in Gaza and in the West Bank, and or about the history of Israel and the Nakba? Are they more aware than Israeli Jews were when you were growing up, Rotem? Or is there still the same type of suppression of information as before?
So there is still suppression, but because of, or thanks to social media, there is more awareness. For instance, when we meet these pre-military groups, so they are 18 years old, they already know what Nakba means. And I heard it this first time when I was 23. So social media creates more awareness, but on the same time, the educational system in Israel is the same, even it goes more to the right now these days under the government. And yeah, the media also, like newspapers, TV channels in Israel, they will not show you videos from Gaza. So the world follows one narrative, and Israel is, most of them, those who follow the mainstream channels, will not see these pictures, these videos. For instance, in mainstream newspaper in Israel, you still have stories from the 7th of October every day about what happened, the massacre, the kidnapped, all that. You'll never see a video from Gaza in these websites. Yeah, and if you want to know, you can. You should follow the certain media pages, newspapers, but if you will just follow what everyone follows, you will not see these things.
I think in the Israeli society, even if they know, if you know, a lot of students I have been talking to, and they really know. They see social media, they read here, there because of the internet, but I think they are not willing to speak. Because speaking against your community and the beliefs of your people, that's gonna burn you somehow. And if you don't, as Rota mentioned in his story, the first question when he went to university, where did you serve in the army? Yeah, and imagine you are Israeli Arab or Israeli Palestinian, so you didn't serve in the army, so that's already give you less rights to be in the university. And if you refuse to serve in the army, it will risk you in the future and risk your beliefs. And if you even served in the army and you fight with Palestinians, it will risk you. And yeah, it's difficult to take a step and to go against, even if they know, especially in these days.
Do one more in the chat and then we'll get to some in the room. And so Kat is asking, are there humanitarian opportunities or organizations abroad that you feel have the most impact where we can look at volunteering in person and donating?
I don't know. Maybe I'm not very optimistic about this whole peace organizations, to be honest, because since ages we are hearing peace, 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 donating. These peace organizations spend millions of dollars every year, and there is nothing changed in my life. To be honest with you, nothing changed. Even the International Court of Justice couldn't take decisions to change my life. I will say go to peace organizations to educate yourself to see what's going on. Of course, there are small helps you can help here and there by living with the Bedouins in Jordan Valley, filming the violence of the settlers. There are many organizations like Bet Salem, which is Israeli and amazing, breaking the silence. They're taking people tours. There are many good really organizations, Israeli, Jewish organizations, who are taking part of this fight, and they are important and they are informing the world about what's going on. But I think the best fight is to fight from here, not from there, because there you will just be part of the thing, and you will help maybe with some donations, with some money, with you can give people fish to eat today, but you can't guarantee to them that they're going to have food tomorrow when you leave. So we Palestinians, we don't need money. We really don't want anyone to give us fish any day. We know how to fish. We are asking everyone to work on the international world to force the international law, not something from different planets. The international law to work on both sides, because we need our freedom and we can go get our fish by our hands. We can pick our olives. We can fix our streets. We can educate our children. We are the most educated people in the Middle East. We fight for our freedom, fight by stopping these hypocritical governments, to sacrifice us for their own interests. That's how you can help us mostly.
Thank you. Maybe not a political question, but I heard what both of you were saying about the importance of relationship building and how it's important for us over here not to separate from other people in the US. And I was wondering, since you've both done the work of relationship building, if you have advice about how to go about building relationships, including when there are big differences in power through no choice of anyone's. Thanks.
Yeah, relationship I think is the real work actually. It's the real hard work. We can shout for years about political change and system change, but as long as we cannot build relationship, I think we will just recreate same systems of separation and of conflict. So yeah, for me the solution is relationship, and I think it takes a lot of personal work and maybe spiritual work and to find ways to first to listen, first to be vulnerable, to understand that maybe you are complicit, maybe you are part of the system, maybe you were oppressing someone else without realizing, and yeah, to put your ego aside and to be vulnerable and maybe not to react. And it's a long process, right? And you need to be committed to the relationship. You need to choose it again and again and again. And especially when there is power dynamic, or is one side who has all the privileges, all the control. So also, like, you have to be willing to share the privilege. You have to be ready to lose some of your privileges. Because again, the change that we are talking about is a systematic change. So we have to share the land, we have to share the power, we have to share a lot of things that we are not used to share. And yeah, I think we have a long way to go again. Yeah.
So when that relationship has already been established, say like with close friends or family, with already do have such an opposing opinion to, like what you might already be believing, from your experience, is there an approach or a story that you have shared or used that you can kind of see their perspective shifting a bit as you're sharing this with them?
So I will say, yeah, meeting people and seeing them as human beings, that's very important. First step. Since I start to meet Israelis and I start to sneak every other week to the beach because they taught me the way how to go illegally. And I started to go every week to the beach and I met a lot of Israelis. It's not only about building relationships, it's building relationships in a healthy foundations. Yeah. Because I have a lot of my friends who were really coming to fight with me in West Bank. They have been beaten by the settlers. They were arrested by the Israeli soldiers, they themselves. And some of them really after 7th of October, they stepped back somehow. And like I said, we passed together 4 wars in Gaza. Every war in Gaza in 2008, in 2012, in 2014, whatever, more than 3,000 people used to be killed. And you use always to say, yeah, man, we need to commit to the nonviolent communication and NVC and NVA and NV, I don't know what. And suddenly, when it's their side and they are the one who's paying the price, it shifted them. But they still will never justify the death of the Palestinian kids. Some of them will trigger me more and say, they are not the target, my brother. Yeah, like you drop 2-ton bomb in the middle of a neighborhood that if you cough, their 2 buildings will fall. And you tell me that children are not the target? I don't want relationship with this human being, to be honest. Some of them, I cut them after 5 or 7. It's not right to cut them. But for me also, I want to protect myself. It's not always I want to fix everything in the world. Yesterday, as someone said, yesterday I was smart and I wanted to change the world. Yeah. Today I became wise and I decided to change myself and to put my own boundaries and to know what fits me and what hurts me and to know which relationship I can be in or I can leave. But again, we agree to disagree, and we still don't justify the death or the killing of any children on other side. I just built healthy relationships in at least this relationship should be in a base that we are all human beings and there is no one better than the other.
I was wrong. Our mic is still good to go. Yeah. But we'll do a couple more questions in the chat online.
2 questions.
2 questions, yeah? Okay.
Please.
So there's a question here asking, instead of ownership, This is from Ludmila. Instead of ownership of holy lands and sites that ensures safety by keeping others out, would it be possible to have stewardship awarded on a principle of who would be the best host to all? Or is there a better way? And how can communities, families, people, homesteads, farms, traditions be honored and not destroyed in acts of vicious circles of colonialism and counter-colonialism? It's kind of a lot. You want to just do that one, or you want to do that one? Yeah. And then another one would be from Peter. Can you say something more about how each of you moved from recognizing the humanity of others to beginning to build? I'm not sure how he was going to finish there. So I guess I'll ask another one instead. From Anne, what do you know about Nev Shalom Wahat Salam, the school, which includes Jewish and Arab families and kids?
Yeah. So Wahat Salam Nave Shalom. Actually, when we talk about how complicated it is, and there is no solution for the Arab or Palestinian-Israeli conflict, I want to remind you that there are some examples. Yeah, like we have 2 million Palestinians, our cousins, our families. Yeah, they are living inside Israel. On papers, they have rights. On papers. Not equal rights like everyone in Israel, not like any Jewish person. And there's a new law called the nation law, which gave them even less rights than the rights they have, but they still, according to the law, they are full citizens. Yeah, like here, there's a lot of full citizens who don't have the same rights, and we keep them in poor neighborhoods, and we give them weapons and drugs, and then we blame them for being violent. Yeah, it's here too. Yeah, so, and these people actually don't have tunnels, and they don't have rockets, and they don't stab Israelis in the streets every day. You know why? Because they have what to lose, because they have rights, because they have life, because they have future, because they are recognized. They can fly from the same airport. They can drive in everywhere in the country. I'm asking it to be, I wish it's better. But if I reach this place, I will be America 2024. If we reach a place, like we will be upgrade to be America. I know there is a lot of racism, and yeah, but we will be in your, we are still behind you, way behind you. It's really bad, a long time behind. And this, as Rotem mentioned before, these schools, Wahat al-Salam, and these cities, the Jewish kids grow up knowing Palestinians, speaking their language, visiting them in their homes because they live in the same place, play basketball together, go to theater together. Then you can't convince them that they are the enemies. How are you going to convince someone that the kid who grew up with you, your best friend, who you shared with you everything since you are kids, is your enemy and you should kill him? He won't. And most of these Jewish kids refuse to go to the army after. The best or the biggest, some of the biggest peace activists come from that place, Israeli Jewish peace activists. And that's why Israel is not interested in building such places. It was the one and the only which was built, and it's not a government project. It's a private project. And that shows you that we have alternatives. We have solutions. It just, we need to get rid of this supremacy system, and then things will be better. And that's the way. I'm saying, Wahat al-Salam, if I agree, if I don't agree with a lot of details there. Yeah. Because people still not equal. If you are Jewish and you say, you boasted the boast, let's kill all the Palestinians from the river to the sea, nothing will happen. If you are Palestinian and you will say, killing the kids of Gaza as a crime, even if you are with Israeli papers, you will lose your job. Like a lot of teachers, you will be arrested. You will be handcuffed, blindfolded, and they will take your picture and behind you a big Israeli flag and publish your picture everywhere. My friend, our friend, she's an actor. She said something on Facebook against Gaza. Since 7th of October until today, she's home arrested. She's not allowed to leave her home. Doctors, they just said this is not a humanitarian thing. They were arrested and they were beaten and they were attacked. So, Wahat al-Salam and bringing people together is our hope. That's what we are talking about. Not because it's perfect, but it's the way. It's the way to make change, to build schools for Israeli kids and Palestinian kids to grow up speaking both languages. That's peace. Peace is a place where two narratives can live and accept each other.
Maybe we finish or
If you want, you guys have given us a lot.
about the colonialism. So again, the problem with colonialism is the fact that people coming from a different land to a new land as refugees or as colonizer, whatever, and instead of trying to integrate into the existing society, to learn the language, to be part of what is already exist, they come and they try to build a new society, a new system for themselves without trying to learn the local language, without trying to be integrated into the local society. And this is Zionism. This was from the beginning what is happening. They came from Europe to buy lands, to build a new society for the Jews without including the Palestinians in the system. And the way to challenge it is by, again, integration. So when you learn the language, when you include everyone, when you create equality, you basically decolonize the system. And we are very far from this, but this should be where we are aiming for. Because again, as long as we will be segregated, as long as this system will work for one people only, we will have violence and we will have conflict. So just to close it up, me and Osama, we do it since October, for the last year, all around Germany and now here in the States, and we don't have organization to support it. We just felt like we cannot sit and be silent. So we are meeting a lot of groups, different backgrounds, and we need your support to continue doing it. So I will give you now, there are links or QR codes. You can donate, help us cover the costs. And yes, share with other people if someone is interested to invite us to speak in front of different groups. We are very open, and yeah, we would love to meet as many people as possible and to spread this new story, how we can move forward together.
And I just want to say, whatever we call it, occupation, colonialism, whatever the name is, I really don't care about names. It's a situation that I'm living under, and I want to change it. I want to change it not by go back in history, because you can't solve catastrophe by creating other catastrophes. I don't think I can expel a whole nation who were born and raised like Rotem, for example, or his father. They were born and raised on the land. Tell them, listen, this is my land. Your grandfather came, committed the crimes. I gonna committed the same crime and expel you. Yeah. I think now we have a new reality, and we have to understand that no one is moving. Yeah. There are the same number of Israeli Jews and Palestinians are living on the land. No one should move anywhere. Of course, there is a lot of things to fix. Of course, you can't live in my grandmother's house and keep living there without even paying me the price. There's a lot of things to talk about, but we need to understand that we need to work on the freedom. The freedom of the Palestinian people is the only way to guarantee safety for the Jewish people over there. And this can happen by joint resistance. Don't fight each other again. By hearing or carrying one big sign for everyone, Israel, Palestine, whatever, from the river to the sea, everyone should be safe and equal and free. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We really appreciate you guys so much telling your story and giving us inspiration and motivation to do something about it and make a difference here. And for friends joining online and in person, please do talk to your elected officials and say no more weapons to Israel. We will share those links again, and please do support these guys at Salt of the Earth so that they can continue to tell their story and continue to share this message. That link is in the chat right now. Olivia has shared it, and we'll be following up via email as well, so that we can support these guys. Let's give it up for them one more time. Oh, they're getting the link online too. Yeah, and we'll follow up. And thank you, friends online. Good night. Good night.